Welcome back to my series of James Bond reviews leading up to Bond 25, No Time to Die, where I am reviewing every official James Bond movie, all 24 of them. We are back with the third Bond movie ever made. It came out in 1964, one that people consider one of the most classic Bond films, and that is Goldfinger.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Goldfinger once again stars Sean Connery as James Bond, and in this one, he has to investigate Auric Goldfinger, a man who loves gold, and Goldfinger's plan in this movie is to irradiate the gold supply in Fort Knox with a nuclear weapon, hence known as Operation Grand Slam. When people say that Goldfinger is the best of the Sean Connery Bond films and one of the best Bond films ever, arguably the best Bond film, they are not lying. This is not my favorite Bond film. I have two others that I think are better than this, but Goldfinger is such a classic. Out of the Sean Connery ones, this one is the most fast-paced. Before you know it, it's over. I remember when I was first getting into James Bond, when I started to first watch all of these, I was just like, the older ones, like, I hope that they're not very slow. This one's actually got a lot going on in it, and it makes for a really brisk-paced movie. Sean Connery is probably the best he's ever been as James Bond in this one. Bond is just awesome in this one. And in Dr. No and From Russia with Love, I mentioned in my reviews that those were starting to establish the James Bond formula. This is the movie where that formula is established to a T. The opening gun barrel, the pre-title sequence, the title song.
Goldfinger,
classic Bond villains, classic Bond henchmen, Odd Job. I loved when Austin Powers spoofed him with Random Task, who throws a shoe. Odd Job throws his hat in this.
Odd Job. Many people have tried to involve themselves in my affairs, unsuccessfully.
Remarkable. But what does the club secretary have to say?
Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club.
You have all the gadgets, you have the tricked-out Bond car, you have the exuberant action scenes. Goldfinger is a more action-packed Bond movie than the previous two Bond movies. And Goldfinger, it just has a damn good story, and it does a good job at telling that. There's so much suspense and tension between Bond and Goldfinger in the first half of this movie, and then when Goldfinger finds out what Bond is up to, that tension is even built up even further. And it leads to Bond being put on a table where he is about to die by a laser. Now, I believe this was the first time a weapon like a laser had ever been put on screen with practical effects. So the fact that they made it look as good as they did in 1964 says volumes to the production crew and the special effects and visual effects teams at the time to make that as realistic as possible, and it's still 56 years later. Holds up so well. It's insanity. It still looks like it's something we could create today, and that's something I gotta say about Goldfinger in general. This movie holds up well. The action scenes are really fun, a lot of practical effects, as there should be in a Bond movie. I've always loved the chase in the middle where Bond's in his car and the henchmen hold him at gunpoint. This scene always makes me laugh. I just die laughing. But again, going back to that whole laser thing, that has one of the most iconic lines in a Bond movie ever. Check it out.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
This story is so rich and so engrossing, and I think that that's what really makes this movie go by at such a fast pace, because there's so much going on in an hour and 50, but it's never convoluted to the point where you can't follow it. Yeah, sure, it's dialogue heavy, but they they have a bigger budget so they can add a little bit more exuberant action sequences, but the way it tells its story through its dialogue, it's never ever quite full of exposition. It has to have exposition. I think all movies at this time had exposition within their dialogue, within what they're showing on screen, but it's never to the point where it's an annoyance. And that's a huge compliment I can give Goldfinger. Auric Goldfinger is one of the most iconic Bond villains ever. He loves gold, you can kind of sympathize with the dude, and you understand where he's coming from with his plan in some ways, even though it is a very evil plan. And if you thought Honey Rider was a weird name for a Bond girl, just wait until I tell you the name of this Bond girl. Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
How that got through the censors in 1964, I will never know, but it's great. That said, she's actually probably the one weak link of the movie. Honor Blackman is really good as Pussy Galore, but I feel as if with a lot of Bond girls, Pussy is just there as eye candy. She's easily charmed by Bond, but I guess that says a lot about the charm Sean Connery has, but it just feels a bit forced that she just allows herself to get charmed by Bond so easily. So that's probably my one, I wouldn't even say issue, that's probably just a nitpick I have with Goldfinger. Goldfinger is so rich in the world of espionage. It has so many iconic scenes. That scene with Bond on the laser, that scene where he walks into the hotel room and he finds Jill Masterson covered in gold, the iconic golf sequence where he and Goldfinger play golf and they make a bet. Almost every scene in this movie is so iconic. This movie establishes the James Bond formula. It is the Bond movie in the classic era of Bond that has the most engrossing, rich, fully realized story, and it tells it in the best way possible. Sean Connery still has the charm as James Bond, and it's such a brisk, fast-paced movie that even when it feels slow, there's still something going on. This movie is never a bore. This is one of the best James Bond movies. There's only two that I like more than it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Goldfinger is still one of the best Bond films, and if you tell me it's the best one, never gonna argue with you on that. I'm gonna give Goldfinger an A+. Guys, stay tuned for more reviews in this James Bond series. Coming up next is Thunderball. Also, stay tuned for more thank you videos for you guys for helping me hit 1,000 subscribers. Still going strong, still getting a lot more subscribers. I thank you guys a ton. Stay on the lookout for those videos. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.